and I was actually hit by these guards that had actually tried to bomb an ATM. All you Okies, how's it out there? I've left the house I'm actually going to get x-rays. Not that I've broken anything, but I thought I'd let you in on a little bit of my life and make my drive to the hospital a little bit more interesting and have a little chat on the way there. And I'm actually going to get x-rays because what was it now, 99 years ago in 2013 I was struck by another car. I was in a giant accident. I was hit on the driver's side of the car. I'll actually try to upload a picture of it, see if I can find the picture. And I was actually hit by these guards that had actually tried to bomb an ATM, probably around 100 kilometers an hour or so, which is probably if you don't work on kilometers an hour, it's probably around 60 miles per hour. Yeah, and they hit me on the driver's side, and I suffered. Basically, I broke my pelvis in 4 places. I broke my pelvis in 6 places. And I've had issues with it ever since. So now it's gotten really bad, and I've been going for treatment as a result of it's gotten really bad recently. I've gotten a lot of nerve pain and shit like that, so I've been going for treatment. And this person, who's actually one of my best friend's girlfriends, she's a chiropractor slash lots of other things. She says I need to go for more x-rays so she can see what's going on there currently. That's where I'm going. I thought while I'm on this little drive to the hospital, thought I'd like to talk about some things. So, like I've said before, I'm very interested in American politics and American socio-political culture, that sort of thing. And one thing that always doesn't baffle me, but I've always been very interested in the Second Amendment in American Constitution, and the Second Amendment, right? And look, I'm not against guns at all. I love guns. I was a game ranger. I used to shoot guns all the time. And I really love guns. South Africa, it's extremely hard to get a gun. Not so much because they're anti people having guns. It's just difficult. Our administrative processes are so backed up, and our government is just so badly run, and those governmental organizations are just so badly run that it just takes so long, that to even start the processes. I have all my firearm competencies done. I've done my handgun competencies, I've done my rifle competencies, done my shotgun competencies. I could apply, in South Africa you have to purchase the firearm, you have to have your competency done, then you have to purchase the firearm, or you could purchase the firearm before you've done any of that. Then you have to have your competencies done, and then you can apply for the license. And unless, South Africa, you can do a little bit of shady stuff if you know some people to get it pushed through quicker, but you can still wait for at certain times. There was a time when it started to happen quicker, but now it's gone back to being slow again. So you can wait for up to a year, 2 years. I've heard horror stories of people waiting 3 years for their gun license to come through, so their gun essentially sits at the gun shop while they're waiting, that they've paid for them to get their thing. And it's not because South Africa's anti-guns, it's just because our processes are so stuff, so that's why it's difficult for us to get guns. Now in America, like, I'm not anti-guns. I would never be for the position of banning guns, right? That's never my intent. Never ever, right? I just sort of have the position of sort of this extreme sort of overwhelming access to guns. Like, I don't think that is such a good idea, to have this overwhelming and all-encompassing like access to guns. Yes, I believe that there are lots of responsible people in America that are very responsible with firearms and so on and so forth, but there's definitely a lot of people who aren't. I think like school shootings and like the mass shootings and stuff like that is uniquely an American problem, and it is used with like specific types of firearms, and like in South Africa you can't actually get a hold of like getting hold of like assault type weapons is illegal. We wouldn't even be able to we wouldn't be allowed, like that's illegal. We wouldn't be allowed to access those sorts of firearms here. But it is like it is uniquely an American problem, but in the same vein, it's not the most. It's not the most, like, most gun deaths don't happen as a result of those things, but it still is a problem, So that's probably a thing for more of a discussion. My thing is that like as an example, like the Second Amendment was constructed, as far as I know, as it's the right to bear arms, right? But it was constructed it was put into the Constitution by the founding fathers, whoever wrote the Constitution, obviously, as a means for the people to have the tools necessary to fight against the government, a tyrannical government, or an invading force that was trying to, like a tyrannical government, and they would have the means to fight against it. Now, it's not that. Like, people, right now it seems to be America just loves guns. They love their guns, and the reason Americans have the guns now has nothing to do with the sort of spirit with which the Constitution, with which the Second Amendment was sort of founded on, right? Everyone, yes, should have the sort of right to protect themselves. I agree, but to what extent? And I was actually going to have a look at this before I think maybe I'll do a follow-up. But to what extent do Americans use their firearms to actually, I gotta get in the next lane. That was a bit sorry. To what extent do Americans actually use their firearms to protect themselves in America? I know here in South Africa, actually a lot of I've got two main groups of friends, and in the one group of friends, they all have firearms. They went through the process. I just didn't go through the process. I haven't gone through the process yet. I will eventually, and because I do really I like firearms and I do want to get one. But I know two of them actually have worked in very high level security things, because in South Africa you need to use, where we make a lot of use of private security companies in suburban areas and so on. But two of them have worked in very high level operations and they use them for that. But in their personal capacity, none of them, and I know very few people that have firearms in South Africa, which is an extremely high crime rate and has a lot of crime. I know almost no one that has ever had to pull out their firearm, pull out their handgun or anything like that in order to defend themselves. And I just wonder, like in America, how many people actually use it. It seems to be a thing more that people just like guns, and there's nothing wrong with that. I like guns too. So yeah, it's like I want there to be more training. You know, I think people should be more trained when they can I turn here? Shit, I don't know. Shit, I think I've gone wrong. Fuck, people are hooting at me. Oh fuck, I should have turned there. I'm gonna have to do a U-turn. So I think people should ultimately be more trained when they have a firearm. You shouldn't just be able to buy a firearm and that's that. South Africa, you have to go through at least basic competency before you're able to obtain a firearm, and you have to go through the police force does checks. They come and inspect your house. You have to go through, fill out forms and stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff that you have to go through before that. I know in some states in America you do have to do that stuff, but in a lot of states you don't. There's a comparison I've thought of a lot, and I know this isn't an amendment in the Constitution, but sorry man, there's an amendment, I know it's not an amendment, but it's a constitutional right in America for that you have you have the right to be able to travel freely between states. You have the right to be able to travel freely wherever you wish to go. That's a right, your right as an American. But you don't have the right to just get in a car and do that, right? Because you have to be able to pass a driving test before you're able to drive a car. Why? Because it's dangerous if you don't know how to drive a car. You can't just get in a car and drive one. You have to know how to drive a car before you just get in a car, because a car can be a potentially dangerous weapon. You know, now people are going and buying guns which have one purpose, and that purpose is to essentially shoot and kill, right? And if you don't have the slightest bit of knowledge or training around them, like there should be some law or something that says, okay, let's take a step back. In order to have a gun, you need to go through this little bit of process, even the most basic of gun competency, in order to have this gun. We're not saying we're going to take your guns away. We're not saying we're going to stop ban guns. We're not going to do anything like that. We just hold on 2 seconds. I'm just at the hospital parking lot. All we're saying is that we're just going, if you want to buy a gun, you're just going to have to go through this little bit of firearm training that's going to teach you how to load it, how to deal with a misfire, how to just basic firearm safety, just safety, like, you know, something like that even, you know. And this could be done easily. You could commission, you know, like firearm like gun shops, you know, gun shop owners to do this sort of thing. And you know, give, like, they could apply to become these sort of operators, and when people go to buy a gun, they could do the assessments. They could hire other people to do the assessments. Governments could give them grants to do this sort of thing, and I just think it would be a wholly more, like, safer thing on the grand scale, in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, that was my little thing. Thank you for keeping me company on my way to the hospital to get my x-rays. I'll let you know how they turn out. Cheers, thanks for listening.